Okay, I just want to go over like the initial stages of Montauk, the very beginning of it. And from the very beginning, most of the kids were chosen, I think. And I think they were vetted through DC and processed through there prior to being processed through Montauk, because I know that I went to DC when I was like 5 or 6, and I was taken there by plane, and I was taken in this oval room, and I was taken to about 6 people. But when I looked into their faces, they weren't people. They were like, it was like looking into an ancient demiurge face. They were they're just probably Nephilim, straight up Nephilim, I think, or something. But they didn't like that I could see them. And then they were, it's like were thinking in their heads, like, we found her, and they didn't know what to do with me, or they didn't know what I was, something like that. So some weird programming that went on there, but I went there first, and I'm sure a lot of other kids did too, that were put into the special projects. So yeah, that happened, and then we just ended up, I was taken from a relative's house, and we were taken in the middle of the night, and we ended up into an army truck, and it was pretty big, and I was taken by plane, and then it sucked because we were just sitting there forever on this like dirt road, and a little light, and there's about 20 of us. We're all in our pajamas. Most of us had stuffed animals. There was blankets in there, and I had been on some strange rides prior to this, but this one was definitely different. So I just tried to do what I did in my mind and calm myself down. And this other truck ends up pulling up, and then they followed us, and then off to camp we went. So there was a kid that I had bonded with in there, named Lane, and he was so sweet and innocent. He made me want to cry, and he was saying things like, "I've never been kidnapped before," and he laid on my lap, and I was just one of those kids that took over right away, and probably was just trying to calm a situation down in a crisis, or at least try to, because I was scared to death. But so I was just telling what they were telling me to say, which was that we're just going to camp and gonna go have fun at camp. So that's how that all started. But what they did to us was awful, and we're not going to be victims of it, though. We need to overcome it, and because they never really had the precedence that they thought they did on us in the first place, to just give us the illusion that we did, and we stepped into their traps, and we knew that it would be like that prior to this incarnation, I believe, and that there'd be casualties, and we were prepared for it. And most people, God knew what we could handle, basically, and I believe that that's the way I see it. But because a lot of people aren't even awake from this, just the extreme bizarreness of it, after decades, they're not, because they inverted the reality that we were more afraid of them than they were of us, and some of that still echoes with people, but it wasn't the truth. So I've held these collective memories for quite a while, but I knew that in the divine right timing that they would come out for just purposes and reasons. So then after that, we were taken into this dorm facility, and the first thing they did was go to the windows, and they sealed the windows and made sure that they were locked, so we couldn't get out, because that's the first thing we went to, is the windows. So checked the windows, and then they left, and then we went into the deep state indoctrination right away. And they're like calling us out, and they were always like reorganizing our groups and stuff, and revamping, reconvening, having conferences about us, probably. Who knows what they did, but yeah, they nabbed us as kids and kidnapped us, because they tried to come at us and take us out as kids, and it didn't work. So yeah, they got us through the implied consent, manipulation, and lies mainly. And at the beginning, I was in this like one-on-one class with this nice guy that I thought had some like scholarly demeanor to him, and he dressed nice and he gave me treats, and he was showing me like genetics books and science books and having me read stuff, and I'd ask questions, and I was really interested in it, and I understood it, and he was impressed with my reading skills and however else they were testing us. I don't know exactly what they did with their protocols, but and I thought he was Bush Senior, but at the end of the day, before he walked out of the door, I knew I saw him shapeshift for a second. So then I knew like we were in this like village. Our captors were shapeshifters, so I had to get that intel out like ASAP. And then I started looking closer, and I noticed that like all of them were shapeshifters. So you couldn't trust anyone really. And he told me that the science was going to do wonderful things, and it'd be nice when you did what he said. And then he even told us we could name ourselves because we were just numbers at first. So then we got these like nicknames or code names going on. But I discussed that with him. And when the real Bush Senior came out, though, the director, he had some pretty strong draconian DNA, because you could tell the difference. You'd start shaking when he came around, and everybody could sense and feel that energy right off the bat. So these guys went after your mind first, and they attacked that. And every day was different from the next. You're always on the edge of your seat, wondering what was going to happen next. So you had to be on top of your game and sharpen your discernment, or you could get taken out. So yeah, there's like a Papa Smurf of the village, and it's like we were thrown into this garden with like Lucifer's strongest dragon seed lines and serpent lines, is what it felt like. And we just had to fend for ourselves. And the next memory I have is my brother and me were standing in the line, and this is when they were just doing the initial beta testing in the chair. So, and this line was just hundreds of kids wrapped outside around the buildings, and we were up to like the front part of it because it took all the way to like dusk to process everybody. So now standing in line, and I remember talking with other kids about like trying to run home or find their farm or something, and we just kind of gave up and thought it was redundant, and just we're going to do what they asked, and decided to stay in line. So we just got to the front of the line, and then I saw my older brother come down the steps, and he had two people in his arms, and he saw us, and he just freaked out, and he like charged over there and came running, and he was trying to grab us. And then I don't really know what his plan was, but it was just this moment of really intense, chaotic, crazy energy, and none of it made sense because they were trying to push us back, and then he was trying to grab us and pull us, push-pull thing, and then somehow he got into the wall, and I was just hearing him say, like, he was just scrambling into the wall, like there's a door back here or something. That I don't know. He was maybe disoriented already, and he was maybe trying to get us through a door out the other side of that room or something. But so I remember his hands coming out, and then they ended up getting him, and then three Nazis came and took away, and he was fighting them and struggling with them, and then he got a shot in his arm. And that's the type of thing that they tried to take away from us, because there was a lot of holes punched probably by the older kids, the first batch, like Swirlo's generation, that age group of boys that were there, because they got like the brunt end of the force at first, because they actually tapered down the torture as we were there, because we kept calling in the cavalry, basically. So yeah, that was what they tried to take away from me first. The real love that we had for each other, and because they kind of made us blanked out after that. Like they tried to get us to be like this blank slate technology, basically. So he was no monster, and it was just older brother trying to trying to protect his younger brother and sister and try to get him out of a place like that. Because that hole was punched out of real love for family. And they always would try to separate your family. You know, he's trying to save us. And that was one of the last memories I had of him. And, you know, he was so strong, like we called it the Hulk smash because nobody could believe how strong he was. And we talked about it for years out there. And the next memory I had of him, though, was him sitting in a chair and his head was down and he had like been beaten up a little bit and was disoriented again. So, and that was with whoever brought him in and the directors. So then I consented to do whatever programming after I saw him like that. So yeah, the kids that I was with at Montauk, though, I mean, they were the shit, and they knew it. So that's why they were after us so bad. But my brother eventually went into like Alpha 2 unit, and he got brainwashed into thinking he was like a prime Draco for a bit. But I mentioned in a different video, you know, on the Fringe Radio Network and Spirit Wars, the meaning of the real green door and the lifetime of silence that they tried to shut us up in this false alien prison matrix. But there was a green room, and in the green room, we endured years of this green room. I mean, for years they did like sex magic rituals and rites and killing, and they tried to get us to drink Draco green blood. You know, they did it just like a drop at first at a time, and then they infected us with it and things that were foreign to our nature, completely foreign. So over time, they would try to drop more into our mouths and make us drink it a couple times. Because I remember as we got older, we had to fight it, and they were trying to see how strong we were. And it was basically like drinking snake venom is what it felt like. Because I would be on the floor like my stomach would just be wrenching, and I'd be like dry heaving this stuff out of my body and like crawling on the floor trying to get out of the green room eventually. So then I'd end up like outside, and I'd just lay on the grass, and I would look up and I'd see this like net that was above us because it was like a dampening field, and we were so like shut in there. And I would just try to channel like as much photonic light into my cells as I could to recharge my battery. I would say like recharge our battery, and it was really helpful when we could get as much sun in there as we could, because it was so black and like green. It was like barely poking through into our bodies. So any light that would like come down from heaven, it felt like it just came down and like healed us and nourished us and replenished us, because they were slowly trying to kill us over time and make us turn. So, you know, they were giving us injections of reptilian data in our arms to see how it would morphologically change us, and God knows whatever else they gave us. So they wanted us to look in the mirror and to see their reflection, because that was actually one of their tests, is if we could reflect their face back into them. That's what they were after the most. So we would totally forget who we were, and then they knock us off our path. But they tried to break our minds first, and it got so bad that they'd up their power, and then we'd up our power, and we were not normal kids out there. I know that, because you know, we were fighting some pretty ancient and I guess archetypal things out there. You know, it's like the war in heaven, the tail end of it just like fell off and landed there, is what it felt like. And then we were just like trapped out there, stuck out there in the hand of the enemy, which looked like a claw in itself. And, you know, we did good though. And it was our souls that they were after. And they wanted to make us slaves. So it was pure spiritual warfare. So then the Draco Prime started doing some really weird shit. And like he'd be in the green room and then he'd be like in his throne chair and then he would just like slimily slide off of his chair and walk right in front of you because a lot of kids were still out in the Nazi training room. And, you know, he individually psychologically warfared against each one of us. And it was just constant. So he would morph into this kid and he would just walk right in front of you. And it was like the weirdest thing you've ever seen in your life. Worse than any horror movie, because it was right there in front of our faces, staring at us. So he would walk right past your chair and then he'd smile at you and to see how strong you were. And then he'd look like he was your sister or your friend and try to like move his energy towards you. And then we were all just like so repelled with this repugnant energy. I mean, some kids were like gridlocked in fear. So we had to like snap them out of that mode so they could function. But he would go in front of you and then he would mimic us. Like, I think he even mimicked me once and then I had to get over that, or he tried it with my brother or something. But we had to avoid it. And then he'd walk out the door and then he'd go lay out on the grass and like get raped by the reptilian possessed adults that were out there and scream like a kid. So then the kids with the lesser discernment, you know, they'd go right over there and try to help the kid. And then, but then the thing would grab you and he'd like laugh sinisterly. I mean, he was evil to the core. And then he'd pull you in and then it was like a magnetic repulsion that you had to pull yourself to get off of him because he was so strong. And then he'd try to vril you with his eye real fast. So we were actually like pulling kids off of this thing. And it was hard. But yeah, he tried to pull you down into his face and vril you. And that part really sucked. And I'm sure it fractured a lot of kids. But just came with the territory, I guess. But, you know, the spiritually attuned ones, they knew right away what was going on. So then they would... they knew that what he was doing, that he was just trying to normalize this behavior and then get us to be disassociative and then eventually ignore it. So then when a real kid it happened to, you wouldn't know if you look away. So then you had to look at it because you had to look and make sure that it was an actual one of us and not him. So he was always doing tricks like that and pulling things out of his sleeve. So yeah, we knew that if we held our ground, he couldn't feed off of us anymore, like emotionally or with psi energy. So then he stopped. So after he had ran through the whole, every face of each one of us, did that. So anyways, yeah. That was a hard one to process. I had to think about that for a minute. But then it was like trying to catch him because he was like super fast. And he would like shapeshift into anybody and go into other people's bodies, the adults. So we never really knew where he was. And then it became like a game of like catch the Draco face. So to me, it felt like we were trying to catch this son of a bitch for like years. And it was like battling Satan in the flesh. You know, we were like wrestling with these demons in the middle of nowhere on a military base on a Native American burial ground. So the energy itself was intense and overwhelming. But because then we started to do this like knife training outside and we'd pair up and then this thing would like shapeshift into people and other adults. So we had no idea where he was. And then you'd see him and then it's like, we hated him so bad. He wanted us to stab it. But what he was trying to do is like get us to stab somebody else, like somebody innocent. And that did happen, but we ended up stabbing a adult, but he deserved it because he was a reptilian. So we're trying to catch the Draco face, and it reminded me of the apocryphal books that say like Satan actually did the same thing in the Garden of Eden, and then he appeared to Adam as like this old cloaked man, and then he quickly stabbed him in the side and ran away, and then he'd like appear to him as an angel of light or all sorts of things, and they got duped like 7 times, I guess, in the garden, and God had to come back and resuscitate and regenerate them, and so that's what it reminded me of, and it was really weird. So we didn't fall for the tricks anymore, and there was a Changeling movie script pretty much right there. So then another day, we were really sick of the reptilian shit, and the weirdest thing happened, but it was the coolest thing too, because the kids just, I don't know how we did it. I think we had talked about it, and how we could boost ourselves. So the kids just all at once outside in a circle, like raised their hands up high, like as high as they could, fingers stretched out, feet stretched out, and we were trying to reach like as far as we could out of this net. And it was like our full, like higher soul self, whatever you want to call it, came flooding right down into us. And some of the kids became walk-ins, and the fuller aspects of our souls just came flooding through, and they shone through and they filled us, and it was like we were in avatar mode, and I could feel like I had like plasma angel wings come out, and I was lifted up the ground a little, and I had this energy come out of my head, like a halo, and because I was calling to Yeshua, and I was connected to Procyon 8 also, and they ended up coming in later and taking out the grays because they were the best at it. But it's like we saw ourselves for what we really were, and God allowed that to happen so that we wouldn't give up hope. And it was mystical, and it was absolutely stunning and beautiful. And we were like fully charged batteries then, and kids were speaking in tongues and different languages. And like we held that state together for I don't know how long, but it was enlightening, and we were liberated. So like if you were one of those kids, you're freaking awesome. And thank you for serving, because we needed that boost, because some battle happened after that, and we were like surrounded in a circle by the reptilians out there, and like the creator showed us that, you know, we weren't meant to be in that army, but we were meant to be in his army. We were meant to be something else. So it was divine intervention that happened out there, and it happened on a large scale level in such a way that it helped us continue on our mission, and it actually helped humanity, I think. And we knew what we were sent on earth to do. So because at the end of Montauk, like the angelic realm actually did come through and breach that, and then it took away the gridlock systems, and then it put these tesseracts inside of the earth, and they used to do it in ancient times, I guess, to seal up the serpents, and they called it seed planting, because it had like an energy tool, like planting a tree or something, and it would just shoot down in there and then create like this grid lattice network that would hold them in. So because I was carrying like the seal of Yahuwah, and I was sealing my forehead with it, and I was being instructed definitely by higher dimensions out there. Otherwise I wouldn't have gotten through, I don't think. So, you know, because the grays were taken out first, and it was like we had to clear out layers of hell out there because it was such a hole, and it was galactic warfare. So, you know, step by step we did this so that more light could come down and through, because they were suffocating us out there with not much light or water even. So, you know, we continued to kick a lot of bad stuff off of this planet, and because they were trying to trap us there forever, and they were using like old Canaanite magic and Babylonian magic and technology that they've been using for thousands of years. So, because most of the time that we were there, we were in our original bodies, and that's why we have so many scars, because because I'd go home periodically, I remember, and then I would just be right back there in Montauk with the same clothes on and everything. So what happened is there was a circle of reptilians, and they surrounded us, and then we like got into our avatar selves, and then it must have been pretty intense because I had blacked out. I think I gave it all I had, and then I just blacked out. So I woke up, and then I remember seeing like a Yeti that was above me, and it was the coolest thing because I saw like all these bodies laying all over. I mean, it was a battlefield out there, and they were just laying all over, these adults, and the Yetis were gentle though, and they actually picked up the dead reptilian bodies, and there was just a faction that had possessed these humans basically, and they took care of them, and they took them away, and then they picked up our little bodies, and then they put us into our bunk beds, and we were really thankful for that because Draco Prime was the last to be taken out, and he'd go when the heat got too heavy. I remember him and his queen, they had like robes on. They were just so weird, and like bowls of blood in their cups. They thought they were so like royal, and they would take off though. When this stuff happened, they would take off. They would go down the road, this path, and they had a secret door. Like it was a secret entrance, this hidden door that would go down into the base or some other part of it that nobody knew. So then we were trying to like follow them and then try to find that secret door to go into the base because he was the big guy that we had to eventually take out. So they played, these games for a while, and we all got like really replenished sleep. Like we slept a long time. I remember we woke up the next day and it was like more sunlight was there, and we were so happy. We were just rejuvenated, and we were all like amped and talking about this Yeti battle, and we all remembered it, and it was really, really a cherished moment out there actually. But we knew that we had to face the enemy again because it's like they just kept coming back in droves, and we didn't even know how they could regenerate like that so fast because it's like we take out so many of them and then they just pop right back up. So but those things helped, and it was like up and down. Something really good would happen, and then something really bad would happen. But we kept our faith, and it was amazing times like that. And so then we went back out and we faced the enemy and tried to turn their world upside down again, like they tried to do to us all the time, because you never knew what was going to happen from one day to the next. It was on the edge of your seat. So they were using fractal timeline quantum entanglement, and because later in my teenage years, I remember the tech was so good and like precise to the second that I could be like in a mirror at my house, and I'd like be putting on makeup or something, and then I would just be there in the same clothes doing the exact same thing, and then I'd actually have to change into different clothes, and then because we had our stuff there, we had a lot of stuff there, and the injections that they were giving us over time, it was, you could see it more when you were there, but it never fully took over. Like you could look in the mirror and see like a fine slit forming in your eye or something that was changing you and your biology. So, and then they had biobanks of us that they created, and also regenerative capsules and that they put bodies into, and containment units, and I'm sure they cloned us, but that was more for like dangerous missions, like if you would get eaten by a polar bear or something, or so you can tell the difference between that and versus being in your real body, because like a clone memory is just like a really nonsensical sometimes, and but I can get into that a different time, how you can tell the difference. And that's a personal choice what you want to sort through when you deprogram with your memories and stuff. But yeah, the tech was that good. So as adults, I would just like to like decompartmentalize a lot of this stuff, because and try to help break that apart, because most people just need to dissolve the terror first. Because we're adults and we can confront this stuff now. And it's not some like unknown mysterious monster, but we can just see it for what it is, and the pure spiritual warfare that we were put into, and like clear the psychic debris, the fracturing, all the things that it caused, the sleeper cells, the deprogramming that needs to happen there, Black Awakening. Because I was told that the armies of heaven would come back one day and totally destroy it and its phantom pulses and whatever else is going on underneath there. Because the Holy Spirit came to me and it was a voice, and she showed me my future and more of the future in general and what the whole thing meant. So, because Montauk's only operating at like not even probably a fourth of the percent of operational power it had back then. And it has some capacity under the earth, but it's pretty much on lockdown. And there was an EMP blast that took out like the top side and fried a lot of the inside base. And, only a few survived and then went under. And a lot of it was flooded. And, I don't really know exactly what they're doing. They had like a door Stargate down there and like a base opening that would go and shoot like almost straight down to the ocean with some type of ship or something. And, they had a lot of different propulsion ships and just a lot of different things were there. But just don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of it. And whatever Montauk means to you, because they wanted to study interdimensional warfare, and that's exactly what they got. And they lost. So, because the light's winning, and it's always going to. And it's going to come back and stomp on its head and just snuff it out. So, that was a promise that God gave to me, that because those kids there that kicked ass, I really appreciated them. And I fought like a decade. So, and the children who died and were sacrificed and forgotten, they should be memorialized and honored. And because it was wrong how they were just kind of like swept under the rug and in a cloak of silence and conspiracy that pretty much blankets America still. But, maybe if other people's stories come out and, we can make more sense of it and find peace with it and some closure, perhaps, that would help everybody, because it did steal a lot from people. I'm not saying that it didn't, but I know people right now that are still trying to process it and messed up from it and not even attached to their soul matrix because of it. But because it had a lot of implementation of layers of programming that went on there, and it was for consecutive periods and amounts of time to wear you down and to wear down the saints, because the dragon made war with the saints out there. So, I processed a lot of hellish things from out there, and I'm telling you, if I overcame it, then you can too. And I just pray that people can just look at it instead of silencing it, because that's what they want you to do, is to silence it, instead of go through the raw energy of things. So I just hope that people can find comfort and know that like someone else saw the same things that they did, and you're not in the lone wolf mentality. And that alone helps to know that, so that light can come in and seal up those traumas and the scars and emotions and memory and even implanted memories, whatever is on the riding the coattails from all the diversified Montauk energies that came out of its Hydra head. So whatever it is, just let it go and let God. And because the Father showed me that he has the best warriors here right now in place. So I'm looking forward to that last battle. And, and the ones that were at Montauk battle, if you were one of the elect, then just know that it's going to be game time again. And heaven's armies are going to come down again. But, because Hashem is an amazing creator. And, he sent fiery chariots and horses and angels with flaming swords to seal up things and all things throughout time and history. So, and he does miracles every day still. And, his thrones and dominions and principalities can just blow that damn green door away with one breath. I mean, it's nothing. It's fucking nothing. They tried to strip that faith away from us, and the basic, primordial, simple truths like that, and tried to make us slaves. So, if I just hope that in my time that those types of things that are on this earth and in this realm, I can walk over their ashes someday. And if I do, the only reason and power that I get to do that comes straight from the Most High. And I give all glory and honor to him for that, because, he's the one who knows it all and sees it all. And he made my hair stand on my head and made that halo come out, and, made me feel empowered like that, even as a little kid, like I was one of his mighty angels. So, I mean, just think of what he can do for you now. He holds time in his hands, is the truth, not some sage radar tower, not some experimentations of man or CERN, because they needed us anyways, and they needed our DNA to open up any Stargate or do whatever they wanted to do in their Tower of Babel. So you just got to have faith and to look for him for all answers and all things. And that's where I find my reassurance and my comfort. And that's all I need, because he is the abundance in everything. And he's never led me astray, and he can't, because he can't lie. Because those people at Montauk and those beings and those things, they have no truth. So all they can do is lie. And there's no truth in them. And the people that don't love truth are the ones that fell for the strong delusion, and the ones that are right now still. So get ready for the final battle, the most awesome battle that's ever going to happen in any type of intergalactic history through all time and space. And I hope you heed the call. And thanks for listening. Peace.